There are love stories that end, and there are love stories that simply change shape. Danny DeVito is 81 now. Rhea Perlman is 78. They have not lived under the same roof in over a decade. They are not married in the way most people mean the word, though the paperwork was never filed to end it. And yet, ask either of them in almost any interview from the last 10 years, and the answer comes back the same. They talk every day. They see each other constantly. They are, in Rhea's words, still a family. How does that happen? How do two people build a life together, lose the shape of it, and keep it anyway? That question is the whole story. Not a secret, not a confession, just two people who met on a cold January night in 1971 and never quite let go of what they found. To understand how they got here, you have to go back to the beginning, to two kids who had no reason to expect any of this. Danny DeVito was born on November 17, 1944, in Neptune, New Jersey, the youngest of three children in a working-class Italian-American family. His father ran a small pool hall and luncheonette. Danny was small for his age and stayed that way. He was later diagnosed with multiple epiphyseal dysplasia, sometimes called Fairbanks disease, a rare genetic condition that affects bone and joint growth. He would grow to 4 feet 10 inches. He has spoken openly in interviews decades later about being an easy target for bullies as a kid, and about learning early that being noticed wasn't always a comfortable thing. He didn't set out to be an actor. He trained as a hairdresser at his sister's beauty school before drifting toward the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. Acting wasn't a plan, it was closer to a discovery. Rhea Perlman's path started differently, but landed in the same city. Born March 31, 1948 in Brooklyn, the daughter of a toy salesman, she studied drama at Hunter College and graduated in 1968. Like most young actors in New York at the time, she paid her bills waiting tables while chasing small parts in tiny theaters. The off-Broadway world of one-night shows and half-empty houses. Neither of them had money. Neither of them had a plan B. Both of them were about to have their entire lives rearranged by a single evening. On January 17, 1971, Rhea Perlman went to a small theater to support a friend who was performing in a one-night-only play called The Shrinking Bride. She wasn't there for Danny DeVito. She'd never heard of him. Then he walked on stage. "I came on to him big time," Perlman said years later, laughing about it in interviews she's given since. The kind of line that only sounds like a joke until you realize she means it literally. She asked around after the show to find out if he was single. He was. They went to dinner. They talked for hours. 2 weeks later, she moved into his apartment. Not 2 months. Not 2 years of careful courtship. 2 weeks. It's the kind of detail that sounds almost too fast to be believed. Except that it's the one piece of this story both of them have told the exact same way, in interview after interview, for 50 years. They didn't marry right away. They lived together for 11 years first. Through the lean years, through the hustle, through Danny parking cars and taking bit parts, while Rhea worked her own slow climb through small theater and television guest spots. On January 28, 1982, they finally married. By then, they'd already spent over a decade building a life that didn't need a ceremony to prove it was real. Think about where you were in 1982, what your life looked like, the people who were building something with you back then, and whether that thing is still standing today. Some foundations last, most don't. DeVito and Perlman are one of the rare ones that did, even after everything changed. Their careers didn't just happen alongside each other, they happened through each other.
Danny's break came through his old roommate Michael Douglas, who cast him in a small but unforgettable role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975, a film that won 5 Academy Awards. 3 years later, DeVito took a risk that his own agent advised against, turning down other film work to audition for a sitcom called Taxi. He landed the role of dispatcher Louis De Palma, a character ABC executives initially worried was too small, literally, to carry a role. The show's creators fought to keep him. They were right to. In the show's second season, Rhea joined the cast, playing Xena, Louis' girlfriend. The producers didn't know DeVito and Perlman had been together for years by that point. They assumed the chemistry on screen was simply good acting. It was also just two people who'd known each other a very long time. In 1982, the same year they married, Rhea began playing Carla Tortelli, the sharp-tongued barmaid on Cheers. The role would run for the entire 11-season run of the show and earn her 4 Emmy Awards. Somewhere in your own life, there is a version of this. A partner, a friend, a collaborator who showed up for you before anyone else believed in you and stayed after the world caught up. That kind of support is rare. It is easy to take it for granted while you're living inside it.
Meanwhile, in 1983, working nights and weekends around their television schedules, DeVito and Perlman quietly founded Jersey Films together. Over the following 2 decades, it became one of the most significant independent production companies of its era, backing films like Pulp Fiction, Erin Brockovich, Out of Sight, and Garden State. Quentin Tarantino, turned down elsewhere, found a home for Pulp Fiction through Jersey Films' backing, made for roughly $8 million, a fraction of what studios were spending on comparable films at the time. Through all of it, they raised 3 children: Lucy, born in 1983, Grace, born in 1985, and Jacob, born in 1987. In 1996, DeVito directed Matilda, casting himself and Rhea as the story's comically awful parents, with their own children appearing in small roles. It remains one of the clearest public snapshots of what their family life actually looked like: work and home, blurred together on purpose, by choice. In October 2012, after 30 years of marriage and more than 40 years together, DeVito and Perlman announced their separation. It was, by most accounts, a surprise to the public. They had been for 4 decades, one of the few Hollywood couples people assumed would simply outlast everyone else. Neither of them has ever laid out a detailed explanation, and it's worth saying plainly, they haven't owed anyone one. What they have said, in the years since, has been consistent and unusually clear-eyed for 2 people who spent their careers being asked about it. Speaking years later on Julia Louis-Dreyfus's podcast, Wiser Than Me, Perlman didn't pretend it had been simple. "There were a lot of reasons that we separated," she said, without elaborating further, and she didn't need to. What she did share was more universal than any single explanation could be. Both of them were consumed by their work, ambitious in ways that pulled at a marriage even as it built one. "He loves to work. I like to work," she said. They reportedly reconciled for a period not long after the initial split, then separated again in 2017. But at no point, not in 2012, not in 2017, not in the years since, did either of them file for divorce. Asked directly by the New York Post why they'd never formalized the end of the marriage, Perlman's answer was almost startlingly simple. "We've been together a very long time, so there's a lot of love and history. We agree on enough things, so why ruin that with the yucky things that come with a divorce?"
There's a version of this decision most people never get to make. The choice to let a relationship become something else instead of forcing it into an ending that doesn't fit. Most divorces close a door for good reason. This one, by their own account, never fully closed at all. DeVito eventually bought a house less than a mile from Perlman's. Their son has noted that the 2 of them share a streaming account and text each other while watching the same shows from separate homes. In a 2024 interview with Fox News Digital, DeVito was asked about Rhea and answered without hesitation, "We're doing great. We see each other all the time. Yesterday was Lucy's birthday. We were all together for the party. We're a tight family." When Andy Cohen asked Perlman on Watch What Happens Live in 2019 whether the 2 of them would ever formally divorce, she looked almost puzzled by the question. "What for?" she said.
In 2022, Perlman said something that has stayed with people who heard it. "Sometimes I wish we were still together, because those were the glory days. But these are other kinds of glory days. Other kinds of glory days." It's a small sentence, but it carries an entire philosophy about what love is allowed to look like after it changes shape. Most of what gets sold to us about romance ends at the wedding, or ends in a dramatic breakup, one or the other, a clean line. DeVito and Perlman's story doesn't offer either. It offers something messier and maybe more honest. Two people who built a life, watched part of it end, and simply kept the parts worth keeping. They still make it a point to show up for each other publicly. DeVito has spoken about Perlman warmly at award ceremonies. They've appeared together at their children's milestones, Lucy's Broadway opening nights, the arrival of grandchildren. In 2024, DeVito recalled learning that Lucy was pregnant just 30 minutes before he went on stage for a Broadway performance. "I just burst into tears," he said. None of this is framed by either of them as tragedy. It isn't performed for cameras either. Much of what we know comes from years of separate interviews where the same facts, the same warmth, keep surfacing without prompting. Ask yourself honestly, how many relationships in your own life have you assumed had to end completely simply because they changed? DeVito and Perlman built something that didn't require an ending to be real. Danny DeVito met Rhea Perlman on a cold night in January of 1971, in a theater that no longer exists, watching a play that ran for a single performance and vanished. 55 years later, they are still, by every account either of them has given, part of each other's daily lives. They didn't get the ending most love stories are built around. They got something else, a partnership that outlived its original form and simply found a new one. Not everyone would call that a love story, but not every love story needs a wedding or a permanent address to be true. Maybe that's the part worth sitting with. Not whether DeVito and Perlman's relationship fits the shape we're used to, but whether our own ideas about what makes love real were ever quite right to begin with. Before you go, take a second and think back. What year did you first see Danny DeVito on screen? Where were you? Who was sitting next to you? If you were around for Taxi or Cheers or Matilda, you lived through the exact era this story is made of. We'd love to hear it. Drop your memory in the comments below. This isn't just a video. It's a place for people who actually remember.